The knock was sharp. Too sharp. It didn't belong to this quiet suburban street. It wasn't the casual tap of a delivery driver or the impatient pounding of a neighbor with a complaint. This knock had rhythm. Authority. The kind of knock designed to command obedience before a word was even spoken. Inside, Marcus Johnson stopped breathing for a second. He had been sitting in his living room, a book open in his hands, the faint hum of the TV playing in the background. But that sound, 3 short bangs, then silence, pulled him instantly back to another life. A life of barracks, ambushes, and doors broken open in the dead of night. He stood. Slowly. His body moved with practiced precision, even though no one was watching. His feet made no sound on the hardwood floor as he approached the door. He pressed his palm flat against the wood, feeling the vibration still shivering through it. Then came the voice. "Police. Open up." Marcus's eyes narrowed. The tone was commanding, sharp, but something in it didn't sit right. It carried no patience, no rhythm of routine law enforcement. It sounded more like a performance. He leaned toward the peephole. 2 men stood on his porch. Black tactical vests with "police" stitched across the chest. Dark sunglasses, though the afternoon sun was low and soft. Boots planted wide, hands resting near their belts. One held a stack of papers, fanning them in the air like a prop. Marcus's gut twisted. Something was off. He had dealt with authority his whole life, real authority, the kind that doesn't need to shout to be obeyed. These men didn't have it. They wore the costume, but not the weight. He unlocked the door but only opened it a few inches. His frame filled the gap, his voice steady. "Yes?" The taller one stepped forward immediately, his tone clipped. "This isn't a request. You need to vacate the property immediately." Marcus didn't blink. "Vacate?" The shorter man lifted the papers higher, his smirk hidden by mirrored lenses. "Eviction order. HOA directive. Effective today." The words hung in the air like smoke. Marcus let them sit there, unmoving, unreadable. Inside, his mind worked like a machine. He scanned their uniforms again. The stitching on one vest was crooked. The patches mismatched. The holsters were too new, barely broken in. Even the papers, they weren't stamped, just covered in bold type meant to look official from a distance. He knew fakes when he saw them. "Leave the papers," Marcus said finally, his tone measured, almost casual. "My lawyer will handle it." The taller man's jaw tightened. His lips curled in irritation. "You don't need a lawyer. You need to step outside. Right now." Silence. Marcus didn't move. He didn't flinch. His stillness was suffocating, the kind of calm that makes lesser men restless. And restless they became. The shorter one leaned in, lowering his voice to a growl. "You think this is optional? We can drag you out if we have to." Marcus studied him closely. His pulse didn't spike, his breathing didn't quicken. Instead, his eyes narrowed just slightly, cataloging every detail. The man's left hand trembled as he gripped the papers. His right thumb tapped nervously against his belt. This wasn't the composure of a professional, it was the performance of a man terrified of silence. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. Then, in the corner of his vision, something moved. Shadows. Low and quick, sliding across the neighboring yard. Another figure paused near the fence line, then disappeared. Marcus's chest tightened. Not from fear, from recognition. He had seen this dance before. This wasn't about eviction. This wasn't even about intimidation. This was a coordinated approach. A slow, deliberate encirclement. He had walked into villages where men dressed as soldiers carried no allegiance. He had seen fake uniforms, forged documents, staged authority, all designed to control through fear. And he knew one thing above all else. When the uniform doesn't match the man wearing it, danger always follows. Marcus's hand tightened slightly on the doorframe. His body remained still, but his mind shifted gears. He wasn't a homeowner anymore. He wasn't a civilian standing in his doorway. In that moment, Marcus Johnson was back in the fight. And as he looked at the imposters standing on his porch, he knew, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an error. It was a hunt. And they thought he was the prey. The taller imposter pressed his boot against the door, testing Marcus's grip. The wood creaked, but Marcus didn't yield an inch. His eyes stayed locked on the man, his breathing steady, his posture unshaken. Last chance, the imposter hissed. Open it. Marcus tilted his head, his voice calm, almost surgical. If you're police, where's your cruiser? The taller man froze for half a second. It was small, but Marcus caught it. His partner jumped in too quickly, his words tumbling out. Down the street. A lie. Fast. Forced. Amateur. Marcus's lips curled into the faintest, most dangerous smile. Then he closed the door. Not a slam. Not frantic. Just deliberate, firm, final. The sound echoed through the hall like the clang of steel in a bunker. Outside, silence lasted only a second. Then came the rage. Fists pounding on wood, boots striking the porch. One of them shouted, "You'll regret this." Another barked threats that grew weaker the longer Marcus ignored them. But Marcus had already moved. He slid locks into place, double-checked bolts, and drew the curtains in practiced motions. His house wasn't a fortress, but it didn't need to be. What mattered was time. Every second he stole from them was another second closer to survival. He climbed the stairs silently, crouching as he reached the second floor. From behind the blinds, he scanned the street. There they were. Shadows moving with false confidence. 6 in total, fanning out across the property, trying to look casual but failing. Their spacing was wrong, too wide, too obvious. Their boots left heavy prints in the grass. Their hands twitched near their weapons. They were mercenaries. Paid muscle. Not wolves. Pretenders. Marcus's pulse slowed instead of quickening. His body relaxed into the rhythm he knew too well. He wasn't in a suburban neighborhood anymore, he was back in a war zone. And war zones had rules. Rule 1, control your breathing. Rule 2, control your mind. Rule 3, make them believe they control you, until it's too late. He reached for his phone. Not 911. He didn't trust it. This wasn't a problem local police could, or would, solve. He typed fast, precise, every word chosen like a blade. Package compromised. Eyes on house. Immediate response. A code only a handful of men would understand. Men who had shared his past. Men who never truly left the fight. Message sent. Downstairs, the pounding grew louder. The imposters outside shouted curses, their voices cracking with frustration. One kicked the door so hard the hinges rattled. They thought fear would work. They thought noise would break him. But Marcus had endured worse. He had been chained in rooms darker than this. He had listened to enemies scream threats in languages he barely understood. Pain, intimidation, fear, they were old tools, and he was immune to them now. He crouched low, every muscle coiled but still. His eyes stayed on the lawn. He counted shadows. Tracked movement. Timed their breathing with their steps. Then he saw it, the glint of metal as one mercenary lifted a crowbar. He whispered to the others, preparing to breach. Marcus stayed silent. Patient. Waiting. And then, everything shifted. From the tree line at the far edge of the neighborhood, movement. Subtle. Silent. Predators in the grass. At first, just shapes. Then, details. The gleam of tactical helmets. The ripple of night-pattern gear. The discipline of controlled steps. Navy SEALs. They moved like shadows given flesh. Formation tight. Eyes locked. Weapons lowered but ready. Not loud. Not sloppy. Not pretending. This was the real thing. The mercenaries didn't notice. Too focused on the door. Too blinded by their arrogance. Marcus allowed himself one long breath, his lips parting in a whisper meant only for him. You came to the wrong house. Because the message had been received. His brothers were here. And while the imposters still believed they were hunters, they were seconds away from becoming prey. The crowbar lifted. The imposters roared. The door trembled. But outside, in the grass, 6 silent professionals closed in. The balance had shifted. The game was already over.